This is the story of a man who was driven to succeed in everything he did.
David's first word was car. His first sentence was, "I gonna get it," meaning he was gonna buy one. He was raised with a very strong work ethic. He was taught to be self-reliant, don't depend on anybody, and if you're going to do something, do it right. And if you're going to do it, and you're going to do it right, you might as well do it yourself.
This is the story of new car designs and engineering achievements. This is a story of a leader who demanded the best and got it. This is the story of David Hill.
Dave came into my office to be interviewed by me. He was the 6th of 6 that I interviewed that day. And I was impressed with Dave the first I saw him because he was neatly dressed, sport jacket, looked like it had been slept in. And I noticed his hands more than anything else. His hands were dirty, gnarly, mangly, grubby-looking things that looked like they just got brushed with a scrub brush to try to clean them up and get the dirt out of the cracks in the fingernails to no avail. So anyway, we had a conversation. I asked him, I said, "Dave, well, why do you want to get in the car business?" "Because I love cars." "All right, what's your hobbies?" "I have a car I race at Waterford on the weekends." I said, "Oh, that explains the hands, right?" He says, "Yeah." I says, "Okay, you're hired."
With over 25 years of tireless service to Cadillac under his belt, Dave accepted a tremendous new responsibility in 1992 when he became Corvette's chief engineer. Dave faced many challenges in the 90s, the greatest of which was the planned discontinuation of the Corvette brand at the end of the C4's life cycle.
I think Dave's legacy is the fact that he was part of a very, very small, unique team that saved the Corvette from extinction, okay? Back in the early 90s, when we were trying to do the Corvette, we didn't have any money as a company. We were just really struggling, and consequently, we had to do a car that that could do it for almost no money, and that's what we got. A program manager by the name of Russ McLean, who was tighter than bark on a tree. I needed somebody that could actually engineer the car, and Dave was the kind of a guy that would go home at night, sit at his kitchen table, and figure something out, come back in the next day and say, "Here's how we should do this part of the car or that part of the car."
One of the things about Dave, and he came in on the heels of Zora, Zora was like this really swashbuckling risk taker, and then you had Dave McLellan, who looked like a college professor and kind of a dapper looking guy and so forth, and then Hill comes along, and Hill looked like an engineer. And the Corvette community was a bit aghast. I mean, after all, this guy came from Cadillac, of all places. And they said, "Who is this guy? What's he doing as Corvette chief engineer?" Well, Dave quickly proved his skeptics wrong in terms of the kind of cars he put in their garages. And believe me, the Corvette community was quite happy afterwards.
The Corvette C5 was introduced to the public in January 1997. And the result was a Corvette that most called the best ever.
We had not had a new Corvette design for quite a while when the C5 came out. And not only was everyone excited, but they were also scared. I mean, this is a big deal to have a new design. They didn't know all that much about Dave Hill either, truthfully. And when that C5 came out and the people saw that design, it was like heaven rejoicing because it had upped the standard in every area. Performance, the look, and it was a home run.
I think Dave Hill's understanding of the Corvette production sports car and its relationship to motorsports, how they really are, there's a synergy there, and they both feed off one another, I think is significant. And Dave's accomplishments with the Corvette in racing are second to none, especially in the 90s and now into the early 21st century.
Under Dave Hill's leadership, the Corvette C5 took the lead as America's greatest sports car and settled in as one of the best performance vehicles ever created by GM. And then Dave and his team introduced the world to the Corvette C6 and the new Z06.
The tenacity that Dave has is one of the main reasons why the car is what it is today. I mean, the man just does not give up. He goes he sets goals and he goes after those goals and is not satisfied. I don't think the man sleeps until he's accomplished them.
Dave will forever go down as the person who took Corvette from being an American sports car, top American sports car, making it a top international world sports car.
Corvette is a world-renowned automobile. You know, right now you look at any automobile magazine, the Z06, everybody wants one. You know, the car is sold out. And that's really because of a guy like Dave that put his heart and soul in every waking moment.
I think if Dave leaves a legacy at all, it's that his ability to gather his team up, to understand the mission, and to get them to perform at levels that even they thought they were incapable of. Dave has the ability to bring the absolute best out in people.
I think Dave will go down as probably the most successful chief engineer from a business point of view, from a quality point of view, from the point of view of delivering the best cars and the highest performance Corvettes ever built. I think that will be his legacy, and it's a really strong one.
It started with a strong work ethic from his parents and an inherent love of mechanics and design, and grew into a GM legacy that will stand the test of time.
Dave's mom said from the beginning he never sat still. He was always moving. He was crawling at a very early age, and he was always the fastest. Whether he was walking, running, or driving, he was always moving. And he is a very high energy person.
Engineers like Dave Hill there are not many of them. There's only a handful of them, I would say, in the world, whether it's in the aircraft industry or automotive or racing. And I would say Dave has got to be one of the top 10 automotive engineers, top 5 automotive engineers in the world. And I think he's so passionate, so thorough, and so bright about what he does that it just can't help but rub off on the rest of the team.
One of the things that I can truly tell everyone is David feels that he really did what GM asked him to do, what he felt was his responsibility to do. He always took his job very seriously because he felt it was his decisions that would put food on the table for people. It was his decisions whether the customer would really like the vehicle in the end. And all of it was the good name that General Motors would continue to have. That was very important to him.
Dave Hill will go into the pantheon of leaders of Corvette that will never be forgotten. He will go down as one of the greats like Zora Arkostontov, and he will forever be remembered.